Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to Man Views. Let's get to it.
Darian Jose Mendez Valdez, the studio party being Savannah Larmendi. And this matter was originally before the court on a petition to establish parent-child relationship. The court's taking judicial notice of the court file. Note for the record, we did a couple of different settings in this matter. Court did order DNA paternity analysis in this matter back in September. We had a temporary order on this matter back on the 14th day of November 2024. And we're back here today's date, and the court will know for the record that both parties are present, and Mr. Mendez Valdez is present with counsel. My understanding his camera's not working properly, but we can hear him, so that's all the court needs is vocal information. So we'll take it from there. Anyway, the state is present. So at this, and the like I said, mom is present, counsel, and the father are present. So I'll ask the state at this time for an opening to tell the court what the state requests is to do here today, whether or not this is a final hearing, and what any and all agreements and contested issues are at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is a contested hearing, Your Honor, but it's limited. So the parties agree to keep the temporary order, to finalize the temporary order as is, except for two issues. First issue, Your Honor, the parties agreed to add on name change for the child's last name to Laramendi Mendez. The child's last name currently is just Laramendi. Um, so the other issue, Your Honor, is visitation. Currently, the last order in this case has some initial possession and access. And this is also an airline case, Your Honor. State understands that Miss Laramendi lives in Missouri, and Mr. Mendez Valdez lives here in Texas. So we have some initial periods, Your Honor. Uh, Essentially, Your Honor, Mr. Mendez Valdez would like, since he states that he has finished the last ones, three of them, that he should have a standard possession order. Miss Laramendi is opposed to that because she feels the child is too young to be traveling like that. Um, Your Honor, I should know for the court that the child was born on January 13th, 2022. So the child is about 3 years old, just turned 3 years old. Um, Your Honor, the state's position on this is that we have no interest in the name change or the visitation. Um, all the stuff that we're interested in, Your Honor, is already agreed upon. So, and I believe that's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Yes, good afternoon, Judge. We are here today. We're hoping this is a final hearing. We had a temporary hearing a little bit over 3 months ago. Testimony given by the parties was that Dad had not had a lot of access to the child, had not had a lot of possession with him prior to that hearing. So this court ordered kind of visitation that deviated from a standard possession order. You ordered that he was to visit the child once a month, 3 months consecutively, December, January, and February, in the state, in the home where the child lived up in Missouri. That arrangement, he was supposed to pay, for his hotel and rental car and all of that. And Ms. Latamendi was to pay for the airline tickets for him to make the trip. All three visits happened. So we are now looking at forward, and testimony will show that my client had a great time with the child. He wishes only to have more time with the child. He has created a bond with him and would like to bond with him even more. But obviously, him traveling over there to exercise his visits, it's going to uh, burden him with a big cost of getting hotels or rental cars. So what we're asking for is for my client to get a standard possession order, where he is able to exercise his time, wherever he wants to exercise it. The testimony will show that he wants to exercise it back home. He wants to be able to take his child to visit his parents, his family members that live in and around Texas, and also some that live out of state. I think testimony will show that he is not a danger to the child. The visits went great. He just wants visitation per a standard possession order. Like Mr. Welch pointed out, there are, since Miss Latamendi did move after the case was filed to Missouri, we're having to do this long distance travel now. And I believe Mr. Welch doesn't usually have that language readily available to him. I would ask the court to consider adding long distance travel provisions, and I can send proposed language that our drafting program usually spits out. It essentially just gives guidelines for, if the parties move, that it's, that tickets should be bought at the airport closest to them, that, they're children, so you probably shouldn't get flights that get in after 9 or before 7 a.m. And it's just very standard language. As a part of that standard language, it also has a provision as to how expenses are to be split of airline travel. My client is currently paying guideline child support as well as retroactive pay that we dealt with at the last hearing. I would ask that the expenses for the airline travel be split 50-50. And the way I would propose it is that the receiving parent pays for the airline tickets and travel associated. So, for example, if Mr. Mendez is going to exercise his time, he would pay, obviously, his ticket to travel to Missouri, pick up the child, pay for his tickets to fly back home. But whenever it's Ms. Latamendi's time to receive the child back, for her to pay, obviously, for either her flying out, picking up the child, and then flying back. That way, it's a split cost on the parties, seeing as Ms. Mendez was the one that did move out of the area before this court made any ruling, but after the petition was filed. I believe the points that are agreed to is that the parties will be joint managing conservators. Mom will be primary, no geographic restriction. They've agreed to a name change, to change the name of the child to Latamendi Mendez. And I believe they've agreed to do, and I believe that's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Sarah Mindy, I don't let, like say, pro se litigants make opening statements. We're going to get some testimony from you, ma'am. But what the requests that have been made, ma'am, that's pretty much the norm. When we have to deal with people who live on this, this is, it used to be Fort Hood, it's Fort Cavazos, I've had to do hundreds of these things, and that's the request that Mr. Lopez makes is the normal request. So I'll get some testimony from you, ma'am, why you don't think that's appropriate. But again, under the law, since you're the one that moved, if you were here, the pick up and drop off would be at your front doorstep. All right. But once you leave, then it has to become something else. So anyway, let's get some testimony. Let's see what we have for agreement. And I got to understand that, again, the child's 3, but 3-year-olds fly all the time these days. So it is what it is. Anyway, but obviously I can cherry pick how I'm gonna set this up because the child just turned 3 and dad's just got some visitation. So I might limit instead of 30. Obviously, I think it's too late for spring break to everybody start getting any type of cheap airline tickets. So I'll be looking at this summer coming up. And instead of the 30, the first time being 42 days, I might cut that in half or something like that. But let's see what we got, and let's hear from everybody, and we'll see where this is going to go. And Mr. Lopez, I'll have you at the end of the hearing send over a copy of yours. I don't think I updated mine last year. Or, time flies when you're getting old. And so it may have been updated 2 years ago. So let's see what the latest and greatest is saying. But again, I know I've updated mine within the last 24 months. And it probably is the same thing you have, but I want to see if there's any differences before I go ahead and do the what it's called, the expanded, or the visitation for pickup and drop off, where we have to do the travel expenses. So anyway, let's go ahead and let me get both parties sworn in. So Mr. Mendez and Ms. Laramendi, please raise your right hands. You both solemnly swear or affirm your testimony you're gonna give here today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, you're both officially under oath, and I'll go ahead and let the state call your first witness, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I apologize, Your Honor. I should note for the court that there is one piece of agreement for the visitation. The parties agree that exchanges would be good at the fire station. Right now they're doing it at a Walmart gas station parking lot located in St. Robert, Missouri.
Okay, if we go forward doing this on airport to airport, it's going to be we can see about that. But again, that we start meeting at third party places, that makes it really difficult to make sure everybody gets the child and make their make their flights. Let's I'll go ahead and let you finish up with that, sir. But again, I'm probably looking at everybody's an adult here, that we need to exchange the child that's going to cause the child the least amount of problems and inconvenience for the party. So I'm probably looking at going ahead and making this the addresses of the parties, unless there's a physical reason why I shouldn't do so. But I'll go ahead and let you finish up and tell me what the agreement you had. That way I can get it on the docket. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. It's just that they were fine with the exchanges at the fire station, which is located at, as far as I could look up, 115 Platner Avenue, St. Robert, Missouri, 65584. That's it, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, then call your first witness. They're under oath.
Thank you, Your Honor. State calls Savannah Laramendi. What is your full name?
Savannah Brooke Larramendi.
What is the full name of the child in this case?
Rainer Isaiah Larramendi.
When was Rainer born?
January 13th of 22.
So how old is he?
3.
So let's start with the agreement. So do you agree to have the child's last name be Laramendi Mendez?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree that, except for the visitation, which the judge will determine today, everything else for the temporary order that was done is fine to finalize as is?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now let's talk about visitation. So how many visits has Mr. Mendez done since we were last here in November?
3.
All right. So let's start with the latest one. How did that go?
The visit itself went well. Following visitation, following all visits, my son has had behavioral issues following them that results in him getting kicked out of daycare for a day or two, and repeated incident reports of him being aggressive towards other children.
Has the child ever been diagnosed with a mental or physical condition?
He is diagnosed with autism. He is also delayed in a couple areas where he goes to specialized therapies once a week.
And when was this last visit?
Last month on the 15th.
And how long was it? What's the time period for it?
It's 12 hours over 2 days.
And so the two before that, how did they go?
The same thing, where I presume the visit itself goes all right, but the aftermath is my son becomes aggressive and ends up getting kicked out of daycare.
And you had more than just the physical visits there. How did the electronic visits go?
A couple of them went well. Several of them, my son, from the very beginning of the call, would tell him, "I don't want to talk to you." I would try to when he became more irritated and fussy because he said, "I want to get off the phone. I don't want to."
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
All right, first off, ma'am, don't say anything the child says. Okay, you can't do that. All right, that's hearsay. All right, thank you. In other words, objection sustained. Thank you.
Whenever my son became frustrated and irritated with being on the phone, I would try to soothe him, and the behavior would just get worse and worse. As soon as he would get off the phone with him, his behavior returned to the way that it was prior, where he was calm and playful with me and his brother and anyone else that was in the house.
So before these visits, how often has Rainer actually visited with Mr. Mendez?
From the day after he was born to before the visits, there's been several visits in between. When I was still residing in Texas, I told him multiple times, just give me a 24-hour heads up that you want to see him, and that's fine. That way I can make sure that like my NCOs at my unit are tracking, so that I can take him. And he would come for some visits. He would spend anywhere between 5 and like maybe 20 minutes with him, and then he would leave.
And so, you're talking about NCOs. Are you active duty military?
I am currently not active duty.
So, what is your military status?
I am currently a National Guard reservist.
And National Guard of Texas or Missouri?
Texas. Although I belong to the state of Texas for Guard, I do drill in Missouri now. My drill is Texas Guard recruiting purposes.
All right, let's talk more. Let's talk about some of the airline issues here. So, um, what is your opinion on who should pay for, how the airline tickets should be paid for?
I don't really agree with my son flying because on top of his autism diagnosis and some
I'm sorry, ma'am. I mean, what I asked is about the airline ticket cost. We'll get to you about your general opinions on the flight. Don't worry.
On the flight, I don't necessarily agree with me flying. I have another child. So coordinating childcare for him to fly would be a hassle. More than likely, I wouldn't have childcare for it, due to his dad being a drill sergeant and working from 4 a.m. to sometimes 11 p.m.
So, what I want to know, ma'am, is do you agree with Mr. Lopez was saying about how the airline ticket costs should be distributed, or do you want something different?
If he has to fly, I would like something different because I physically won't be able to fly to go get him without having to pay for another ticket for my other child.
And what about the costs of the lodging and the transportation? Do you have any opinion on as to how that should go?
Like we had discussed last time that y'all would cut his child support to a lower amount in order to facilitate him traveling and the cost not being fully on him in a sense by the child support being cut.
So, are you still in agreement with the temporary order says as the current child support should be?
I agree with it. If we have to cut it for him to travel, I'm fine with that.
And just want to make sure, has there been any safety concerns with the child?
There was one from their first visit, the first day after because they have the weekend. That Saturday, my son came back with some bruises and telling me that like things were hurting and
Okay, get
Objection, hearsay.
Don't say anything the child told you, okay? You can say what you observe, but you can't say something the child told you. All right, thank you.
My son had bruises in various places all over him. And he had a diaper rash. He wasn't acting like himself. So I took him to the doctor just to get checked because I had never seen him like that in his whole life. He's never been that agitated appearing. And they deemed that.
Okay, ma'am. Don't say anything any physician, nurse, or anyone at the hospital said. Again, ma'am, you have to call them as witnesses. Thank you.
The staff that examined my son felt that.
Objection,
Okay, ma'am,
hearsay.
same thing,
Okay,
ma'am.
my bad.
Yeah.
The hospital staff ended
Ma'am,
up calling Child Protective Services.
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor,
okay.
we can just go to the next question.
All right, thank you. Ma'am, again, you can tell the court if you've been contacted by Child Protective Services, but until then, again, someone told you you can't do it, ma'am. All right, thank you. But you can testify to something that you're a witness to, then you're a witness to that. All right, thank you.
They did contact me, sir.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll let the state ask the necessary questions. Thank you.
What was the result of that contact?
They told me that it was inconclusive.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, ma'am. Can't say anything they told you. All right. You can testify to anything that you are an eyewitness to. If you went to a hearing, if you went to a meeting, you can, but you can't testify to something someone has said to you. And if you got paperwork, that's the gold standard. Okay. So whatever paperwork you have, if you've got that and it's admissible, we can see about that. But again, ma'am, you just can't say stuff. Technically, the paperwork has to be admissible, otherwise it's hearsay. I know you're not a lawyer, ma'am, but this is a court of law, and this is the way these are the rules we operate under. Thank you.
All right. Do you have any paperwork from the CPS?
I do not. All of our correspondence were over the phone.
Next question, Mr. Welch.
Yes, Your Honor. When was this? When was this potential incident or accident or something?
The last weekend of December.
Has there been anything happening safety concern wise after that?
No.
All right. So right now, the exchanges are at that Walmart gas station parking lot that we discussed. Did those go well?
Yes, sir. We had one exchange that was not at the parking lot, but we had previously agreed to it and there was no issues there either.
And also, so the split right now is that you would purchase and provide Mr. Mendez a round trip ticket to Texas and Missouri or the state the child resides, and he would pay for the lodging transportation to actually exercise.
Okay, Mr. Welch, that's the old order. We're not doing that one anymore. You don't have to go on that one.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, Your Honor. In that case, Your Honor, pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Lopez, your witness.
So just quickly, Your Honor, I have a few questions. Ms. Laramendi, you said that after that first visit, where there was you had some concerns, visits 2, which would have been in January, and visit 3 in February, those went fine. That you didn't have any concerns on those?
No.
And earlier, I think might have been getting a little mixed up with what Mr. Welch was asking you regarding the long distance travel. He was asking specifically about like the costs, and I think you said, depending on if, Mr. Mendez has to do more of the flying, that you're fine if he'd get some sort of reduction in child support since he's having to do more of that. Is that what you were saying, or was that regarding like rental cars and hotels?
Rental cars and hotels, because
Gotcha.
it's just not feasible for me to travel with my younger child.
Gotcha. So then I guess let me split it up for you in 2 things, right? Regarding the airline travel. So I'll ask you first about the cost and then about what we can do regarding how you're going to fly, right? So if let's say neither of you had other children and you guys were both able to fly back and forth, would you be okay with the cost being split as I described? Essentially, the receiving parent pays for the tickets to receive the child.
No.
Okay, and why is that?
If I feel that if he wants to exercise his visitation and bring the child to him, then he should have to return the child.
Sure, but you did move out of the state without informing this court. Is that right?
I did move, but I did inform the court, and the court let me know that it was okay that I moved.
Gotcha. And when did you inform the court of this?
The hearing that we had in September.
Gotcha. But you didn't inform them before you left, you informed them after.
No, I informed them before I moved in October.
Gotcha. Okay. And for the move, that did occur after the petition was filed by the state. Is that right?
Yes.
Um, Now, let me focus on the actual like logistics. Let's say Mr. Mendez was the one having to, because you said it's hard for you to get childcare. Let's say Mr. Mendez is the one that's doing all the traveling. In that circumstance, would you be agreeable to paying half of it since he's the one having to do the bulk of the traveling?
Yes.
And so essentially, if the court wants it for him to pick up and drop off, do all the flights, but you help by splitting it the way I described. Essentially, when it's his time, he'll pay for those tickets, and when it's his time, you'll pay for, or when it's your time, I apologize, it would be on your cost if he's the one doing the flying.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, man. The normal circumstances, this is a one-day thing. So, he flies up, picks the child up, and takes the child back. And then when it's your turn to get the child back, the normal was, and you said you got problems because you have you have a child that might you have to make arrangements for. But the norm is that you would fly down, meet at the airport, pick the child up, and fly back. So it's a one-day normally a one-day round trip thing, and depending on the flights. I remember looking at the flights where you're coming and going from where the location you're in, and it seems like I recall, I think Kansas City is the major city closest to you, correct?
No.
What's the closest major city?
St. Louis.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got it. Okay, then St. Louis, Missouri, not
I'm
Kansas
like
City,
right in
Missouri.
between.
Okay, good enough then. So, but if we were to set it up, and again, ma'am, this is the norm. He would fly, pick up at the airport, fly up to you, and you would have the child waiting for him at the airport, and he would pick the child up and fly back, and vice versa. But if under these circumstances, you were saying that instead of he'll still have to do with the pickup, but he would actually fly back with the child, and you're willing to pay his fare for doing that, correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's get some testimony from him and see if he's okay with that, and we'll rock and roll. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Anything else on redirect, Mr. Welch?
Do you have any further questions, Ms. Laramendi? Or any not questions, sorry. Do you have anything you'd like to tell the court?
I just feel that my son is too young to travel that much in a 2-day period, because not only does he have the behavioral things that he does with his autism and the delays that are associated with that, he also does have some medical issues to which he's had 4 surgeries or procedures for in the last year that involve his lungs and his upper airway. And I would rather not put him at unnecessary risk and stress that would later require more procedures.
All right, ma'am. Are you telling the court, is there any medical condition that keeps this child from actually flying in an airplane?
Flying in an airplane, no, but excessive flying.
Oh, ma'am, it's not excessive. So, well, that's relative. All right. Never mind, ma'am. Sorry. All right. Anything else, Mr. Welch? Any other questions of the witness?
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, then. Anything on cross, Mr. Lopez?
Just very quickly, Ms. Laramendi, so if the court were to do what you're asking, essentially not allow the child to fly and visit the dad, if he's awarded a standard possession order and he can exercise, his week in Thanksgiving or week in Christmas or his 30 to 42 days in the summer, who do you think should pay for him for his hotel and rental car? Would that be you?
Well, if child support is reduced, then that's what that would be for. I use the child support to pay for his childcare. So that would become the burden solely on me at that point, and he could use that towards it.
Sure, but I guess you do see the problem of him trying to exercise his summer visitation for, let's say, 30 days. For him to pay for a place to stay, it would surely eclipse whatever child support he gives you over several months.
I don't necessarily see the issue in the sense of one, uh, I had to figure it out when he wasn't around. When I
Objection non-responsive, Your Honor.
Sustained. All right, ma'am. If you don't know the answer, just say I'm not sure. Okay. But again, you gotta if you don't listen to the question and only answer the question that's asked. Thank you.
And no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, let's call your next. Call your next witness, Mr. Welch. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Do you want me to call Mr. Mendez, or do you want
Mr. Welch, it's your call. You're the attorney. Sorry, on this one. So you can pass and let Mr. Lopez call his own client if you wish. No problem.
I believe that would be best, Your Honor, if I pass and allow Mr. Lopez to call his client.
All right, thank you very much. Then, Ms. Lopez, call your first witness. Thank you.
Yes, I call my client, Your Honor.
All right. All right, you
Yes,
there,
sir.
Mr. Mendez?
Yes, sir.
All right, please state your full name for the record, sir.
Darian Jose Mendez Valdez.
All right, thank you very much. You may proceed at this time, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mendez, I want to start off with, were you able to hear my opening before we started the line of questions?
Yes, sir.
And did you hear me describe that part of the agreement is that both of you be appointed joint managing conservators, with mom having the right to designate the primary residence of the child, just as it is in the temporary order. You're in agreement with keeping that in going in the future?
Yes, sir.
And we've also agreed that the child's name is to be changed and then reflected on an amendment on a birth certificate to his last name being Laramendi Mendez. Is that also your understanding?
Yes, sir.
And you are currently paying guideline child support,
Yes, sir.
and you're also paying towards retroactive, which was confirmed at the temporary hearing. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Have you been making all the payments regarding your both child support and retroactive?
Yes, sir. They've been done through the Texas attorney page that I go through. I do the electronic pay.
So you go to the SDU page, make the online payment, and then the Office of the Attorney General disperses it to Ms. Latamendi at a later date.
Correct.
And that's in line with the instructions given on the temporary orders?
Correct. That's the full amount that I was told.
Gotcha. And at the last hearing, we guideline child support was ordered on the temporary basis, but the judge did make some rulings regarding your possession and access of the child. Do you remember that ruling?
Yes, sir.
And the ruling, in short, was that you were to get one visit a month over the next 3 months, where you are to travel to Missouri and visit your child there. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
And those months would have been the first one would have been December, second January, and the third just this February. Is that right?
Correct.
Were you able to do all 3 visits?
Yes, sir.
Could you describe to the judge, focusing on that first visit in December, what did you, and again, don't tell the court what the child said or anybody else said besides you or Ms. Latamendi, but could you describe to the judge what you did with your child during that first December visit?
Yes, sir. I picked him up on Saturday. I took him to this like science museum, interactive museum type deal, where he was climbing up and down slides and all that stuff. Looking at preserved animals. It's interactive science museum. That was on Saturday. On Sunday, when I picked him up, I took him to the store, got him some toys, got him a bite to eat that day in the morning too. And it was chilly and there's not much to do in the St. Roberts area. So we sat in the car for a little bit watching Despicable Me. He enjoyed that. But then he got a little impatient. So there was a park down the road and, put on a coat, and he was at the park for the remainder of the time. So I had to return him back.
And did you have a good time with your son?
Yes, sir.
Did your son seem to be enjoying his time?
Oh, yeah.
Was he smiling?
Yes, sir.
Was he, playing games with you? Were you playing games with him?
Yes, sir.
Um, Now, did you hear Miss Latamendi in some of her questions saying that she did have some concerns from that first hearing regarding some bruises she saw?
Yes, sir.
Um, that she said that there were bruises, I believe, on the leg and I think other parts of the body, and I believe also she said there was a diaper rash. Did you hear that testimony as well?
I did, sir.
And then she said that she took the child to the doctor, and then thereafter was contacted by CPS. Did you hear that as well?
Yes, sir.
Were you contacted by CPS?
I was, sir. I was contacted by the Texas Division of CPS.
And was that shortly thereafter that December visit, so sometime in January?
Yes, sir.
And did they let you know that there were concerns regarding the physical well-being of your child?
Yes.
And were those stemming from the incident that Ms. Latamendi was describing?
I wasn't disclosed as to what it was until the day of the home visit that they did.
And so CPS did an investigation on you,
Correct, sir.
and they, like you said, they did a home visit.
Yes, they did a home visit interview, and a walkthrough.
And did you heard the judge say if there was any paperwork given to Ms. Latamendi, and Ms. Latamendi said no. Was any paperwork given to you from the department?
Yes, sir. I have a letter of closure from CPS.
And that's from the Missouri Department of Social Services, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And in that letter, was it mailed to you recently?
Yes, sir. It was mailed to me on January 29th of 2025.
And in that letter, did they find insufficient evidence that there had been abuse or neglect?
Yes, sir.
And so, to the best of your understanding, the case is closed.
Yes, sir.
Did you do anything to hurt your child on that first visit?
No, sir.
Did you see any bruises when you dropped off the child?
No, sir.
The child at any point, was he at any point like fussy or frustrated or in any way upset regarding his physical well-being?
No, no. He was enjoying his time on the slides and the little tractor thing that they had at the park.
Gotcha. And so we'll move on to the second and third visit. So on that second and third visit, Ms. Latamendi said there weren't any safety concerns. And I assume that was the same for you as well, that no safety concerns popped up like they did on the first visit, correct?
Yes, sir.
What did you guys do in that second visit in January?
I picked him up. We went for some breakfast, and then followed by a visit to the aquarium that they have there from Bass Pro. So we spent majority of the day walking around, looking at the animals, fishes, and all that stuff. And that was Saturday. Sunday, again, there we kind of stay local in the St. Roberts area. There's not much to do there, so we kind of just went to the store, try to kill some time, put on a show for him on my phone, just try to keep him interactive with me. We couldn't go to a park because it was pretty cold, so bought some toys. We sat in the car, played with his toys.
Gotcha. And was the third visit similar in that regard?
Yes, sir.
And through all three visits, was your child smiling? Was he laughing? Was he seemed to be having a good time?
Yes, sir. Actually, when I would go pick him up, he smiled and would go come and give me a hug.
And as like you said, towards the second and third visit, when he saw you, did like for the first time when you were picking up, did he seem happy?
Yes, sir. Smiling and like I said, would give me a hug.
Did he recognize you?
Yes, sir.
Um, do you believe that during these three visits, you've been able to bond with him more than you have in the past?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to continue that relationship and see him more than just, if possible, once a month?
Yes, I would like to, sir.
Now, I've described to you what a standard possession order is, which is in most usual times you'd get every first, third, and fifth weekend, alternating holidays, and sometime during the summer. Is that your understanding of it?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're asking the court here today to grant you?
Yes, sir.
Now, you've heard me and Mr. Welch and Ms. Latamendi talk a lot about the long distance travel and a little bit about the pickups and drop offs. So, it would be hard for either one of you to just drive, over to Missouri or down to Texas to pick up and drop off the child. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, not just for our sake of driving, but now at that point, I think the child would get fussy. Being in a car for 8, 9 hours, 10 hours.
And we're asking the court to implement, along with a standard possession order, some long distance travel provisions that would more accurately describe what for you and mom, where what tickets to buy, what airport to go to, essentially. In case you move or in case she moves, it would be at the at the nearest uh, large airport nearest to your house or to her house. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, I believe we also talked about sharing expenses. Um, are you asking the court to order a shared expense where when you're receiving the child, you pay for the ticket? So if you fly over, pick up the child, and then fly back, you would pay for that round trip, essentially a ticket for you, round trip, and then a one way for your child. And then when mom picks up, mom to go picks up child and then flies back. Is that what we were asking the court?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you hear Ms. Latamendi say she has difficulty agreeing with that because she has another child, and I believe her husband has, a work schedule that makes it hard for her to acquire childcare. Did you hear that testimony?
Yes, sir.
Sir, do you have any other children?
I do not, sir.
But do you have a wife?
I do, sir.
Um, Ms. Latamendi would rather the child not fly, and I guess you do all your visitation and access in Missouri. Did you hear that as well?
Yes, which I deem difficult given the fact, like you mentioned, 30 to 42 days in the summertime, I can't just up and leave work. I'd get fired.
And beyond that, beyond the logistics of your job, employment, anything like that, do you want your child to get to know you and your wife and your home?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to take them to places, in and around where you live?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to make sure the child is able to see your friends, your family, back home and wherever else they may live?
That is correct.
And so would that be pretty impossible if you're doing all your visitation in Missouri?
Correct.
And besides the logistics and besides you being able to see, share your child, with your family, would it be pretty much impossible financially, essentially you having to pay for a month or more during the summer for lodging, rent, gas, food, and everything else that comes with that?
That is correct. Because for a weekend there, it was close to $900 total wise with rental, hotel, gas prices.
And so you're saying for each of these three visits, you spent roughly between $800 to $900 on hotels, car rentals, food, and everything else having to do with the visit.
Correct.
So you'd ask for this court to still order guideline child support, but split the travel expenses 50-50 as we described. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the alternative, if the judge does is okay with, says, it's a hard for mom to travel, we'll ask you, Mr. Mendez, to travel. You'd still want Miss Latamendi to pitch in for her half of the travel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Um, if the court were to order anything that where you have to pay for all the travel expenses dealing with airline tickets, would you ask for a significant reduction in child support having to deal with because of that?
Yes, sir.
And so knowing that the standard possession order is alternating holidays and, certain time during the summer, and the fact that you can choose to see your child still, on first, third, and fifth weekends, is your plan to try and see your child as much as possible?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, the holidays and the summers are the most convenient, I think, for everyone, not just you and mom, but also the child. So is your plan to take advantage and exercise your maximum week holiday and summer schedule?
Yes, sir.
And if the schedule works out okay, maybe you'd be able to sprinkle in visits throughout the year that aren't holiday or summer.
That is correct.
Now, I know we talked before the hearing with Mr. Welch and through with Ms. Latamendi through Mr. Welch regarding the doing visits or the exchanges at the fire station. But something that dawned on me while we were going through this hearing is that would you be in agreement if we do the long distance travel provision to just do the exchanges at the gate where the child, like at the gate of each other's airport? That way it's still in a public space, but neither of
Yes.
you have to travel out of the airport, get a car, travel to a fire station, and then bring the child back.
Yes, yeah, that works.
And that might be on me for not thinking of that while we were talking about it. But do you think all of this would be in the best interest of the child?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and then one more thing. You're currently covering the child on health insurance?
No, Ms. Laramendi had him on TRICARE.
Oh, yes. I apologize. So Ms. Latamendi is currently covering him on health insurance,
Yes, sir.
and that's through TRICARE.
Yes, sir.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You're muted, Your Honor.
I know. I'm sorry. Mr. Welch, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a very few. So Mr. Lopez has already went through most of it there, but besides adding the new child's last name, along with the possibility of current child support changing depending on how the judge rules, do you agree to keep as is the rest of the temporary order? And besides the visitation as well.
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else on the witness, Mr. Lopez?
No, Your Honor.
All right, folks. Let's have some closing statements. I'll go ahead and I'll start with the two lawyers and let the lay person get the opportunity to hear what the lawyers are requesting, and then I'll let her make a closing statement. Ma'am, again, a closing statement is not or a closing argument is that it's not new testimony. It's just what you're asking me to do as far as the this matter is concerned. So at this time, I'll start with Mr. Lopez, then go to Mr. Welch, and then go to you, Ms. Laramendi. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. What the testimony showed today is that there is an agreement on some issues, primarily conservatorship, both parents being joint managing conservators, just like they were on temporary, with mom having the primary the right to designate the primary residence of the child and everything that goes along with that. In the temporary hearing, we already adjudicated Mr. Mendez to be the biological father of the child. We have agreed that the name of the child or the child's surname anyways, should be changed to Latamendi Mendez moving forward. And we ask that the court order reflect that and also an amendment to the birth certificate. They are also in agreement, I believe, with keeping the electronic communication. And I actually didn't hear that specifically, but I would ask that the electronic communication provisions stay in place moving forward. The parties were also ordered to communicate via app close. We'd ask for that to stay in place. We'd ask for the child support amounts regarding current child support and also retroactive child support to stay the same as they were confirmed in the temporary hearing. For the specific request we're asking for today, Your Honor, we're really just asking for Mr. Mendez to now get his standard possession order. I believe it was the intent of this court back at the previous hearing to essentially put these, monthly visits with the child up in the state where mom lives because of some concerns mom raised at that hearing regarding whether or not my client would even exercise them. Mr. Mendez did. He exercised all three of them. Testimony showed that he had a good time with his child. His child had a good time with him. There was an incident reported to CPS, but the case has since been closed out with no reason to suspect abuse or neglect. Mr. Mendez just wants to continue to foster that relationship that he's created with his child over the last few months and carry that moving forward with a standard possession order. And I think if he is granted that standard possession order, he is going to take advantage of that and see his child as much as he can, for sure during the holidays, for sure during that summer. Obviously, when you're that far away, doing weekend visits is obviously costly and takes a lot of time and energy from all parties. But I think he will still try to do, as many visits as he can. We'd ask for long distance travel provisions, which I believe before we really started the testimony, you asked for me to send you my language, and I will, Your Honor. Language that I have, like I said, usually is very detailed in where the parents pick up, the nearest airport. And I believe that the actual exchanges happen at the gate, which would kind of have to, you don't have to deal with, oh, are they going to meet at a police station, a fire station? As long as they're doing long distance travel, they'll just exchange at the gate. And logistically, that just makes sense for both sides, because if they're having to meet, let's say, at the fire station closest to each other's house, they're having to rent a car at the airport to drive, do the exchange, drive back, and then fly. So I'd ask that the exchanges be done at the gate where the flight is coming in, and then I'd ask that the expenses be split 50-50 as I described. Essentially, the receiving parent pays for those tickets. Ideally, I'd want Mr. Mendez to go and travel, get his child, bring him back for his time, and Ms. Latamendi to go. Ms. Latamendi did testify that due to her childcare that it would be difficult. I believe it would be difficult for most people. So I'd still ask for each of them to go and pick up the child. But if this court rules that maybe it'd be easier for dad to still keep that 50-50 split, that way those costs are shared equally. And I know there was some testimony about hotel and car traveling, but if we do long distance travel and he gets a standard possession order, that's going to be a non-issue moving forward. So with all of that, Your Honor, that's the the relief we're asking for today, and we're asking you to make these orders as we believe they're in the best interest of the child. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lopez. Mr. Welch.
Yes, Your Honor. So the state would like the court to confirm as is most of the temporary order that was done. The state has no position or no interest in the name change or the visitation. Um, if if the court does want to modify current child support based off of some kind of visitation change, then the state defers to the court on that. That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Armendi.
I would just ask that my son's health concerns and behavioral concerns are taken into account in the decision. And as far as me doing the flight, it be taken into account that I do have another child that is also really young. And
How old is that child, ma'am?
he's 1.
Okay, yeah, younger than this. That's what I was trying to figure out, younger or older. Thank you.
That it would just be nearly impossible to find childcare on a Sunday for a 1-year-old. For me to fly there, fly back, and his dad is unable to watch him during that time due to work.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. All right, here's what I'm going to go ahead and obviously approve the agreements. I'm naming the parties joint manager conservators and giving mom the right to decide domicile. That right's unrestricted. I'm going to go ahead and set up a current child support based on the father's information and or that going forward. Mom's to maintain health insurance and dental insurance through TRICARE. And we'll go ahead and get that, and that's going to be that part of the order. As far as visitation and access is concerned, I'm going to go ahead and have Mr. Lopez send over his copy. I've got a copy that's probably pretty much the same thing. It's the same thing. I know it's not ProDoc anymore, but whatever, you know, somebody bought ProDoc. So whatever the ProDoc standard is, the court has that still. And but I probably need to update just to be on the safe side. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is for visitation, and Mr. Lopez, I'm going to go ahead and give the dad the long distance standard visitation order, 1 weekend a month if he chooses to exercise it. And I'm going to tweak that once I get your version of the order for long distance. Right now, I'm going to let the parties going to have to communicate. We're going to keep app close, and y'all are really going to have to do this very, very well because again, ma'am, you know, he's dad. He has the right to see the child. He has the right to work with the child's circumstances, illnesses, trials and tribulations. They're raising kids. That's the way it is. So the bottom line is we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and set that up. But for right now, I'm going to give you the option of going ahead instead of it having, and since dad and he doesn't have any other kids, so there's not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and order that he be responsible for picking up the child, the cost of picking up the child. But if you instead of you having to return to come and pick up the child at the end of visitation, I will have you allowed to opt in for having dad to fly back with the child, and you make that payment. The schedule we're going to send you, ma'am, is somewhere between 2.5, right around 2.5 pages long, because it takes into consideration all kind of contingencies about how far in advance y'all need to get these tickets set up, the exchange points, and he's right, it's usually at the gate. Now, going forward, that's what I'll probably do, and you will get the standard that everybody else gets. And I'm not sure if the state has a copy of that, but I'll obviously you'll get a copy in the order. This first visit, though, sir, you live more than 100 miles away, and you're entitled and the norm is 42 days in the summer, but this is a 3-year-old child that's never been away nowhere near that long. So for this first summer visitation that you go with, sir, I'm probably, if you're going to do this summer, the summer of 25, I'm going to limit it to a 2-week time frame. I'm going to go ahead and look at if you're going to do it, sir, I'm going to pick your dates for right now. But next year, you get to go ahead and do all this yourself. But for right now, since we're closing in on everything, I'm doing it. I'm looking at if you want to do summer visitation, sir, I'm going to do it for 2 weeks. and I'm going to start the summer visitation the 30th. Okay, I'm in the wrong month. Let me get back to. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to look at. It will start on June the. Okay, June the 28th, and go through July the 12th. So that's a 2-week time frame. And the 28th is a Saturday, and the 12th of July is a Saturday. So what I'm going to have you do, sir, is fly in on that 28th, and I'm going to treat this out in the order. But instead of you just mom meeting you at the airport and turning over 3-year-old, I want you to make your return flight, and mom's going to do this expense if she's not going to bring the child back herself. Then I'm going to want you to make that return flight for the next day. So that way, you need to either fly in on that Friday or Saturday and make arrangements to see, and then you'll get to see the child all day Saturday for a few hours on Saturday. If all day, if you come in on Friday, if you're coming in on Saturday for that evening for a couple hours, for a few hours, and then have you and mom meet back up at the airport with the child the following day for you to fly out. I don't want a 3-year-old all of a sudden to show up at the airport for the first time, and all of a sudden mommy hands him over to daddy, and he gets on this big silver bird and to fly off somewhere. Yeah, at 3 that might be a little traumatic. So let's go ahead and do it like this, and then like I say, have mom bring him to the airport the next day for this first time. But going forward, it's going to be the standard order where y'all meet at the airport gate and get this taken care of. Again, ma'am, this thing is long, it's exhaustive, and you're going to have to read it about 10 times before you get it all, okay? But those are the circumstances, and if you need any explanation, maybe the state can help you with that, the legalese of that, but that's how we're going to set that up. So again, ma'am, if you don't want to bring the child back, then I'll let you pay for the difference, and dad will do it for now. But I'm going to go ahead and keep the electronic visits. I'm going to go ahead and set this up, and again, the long distance visitation, ma'am, he can pick one weekend a month. If he wants to come up and visit the child, I'll have him give you at least 14 days advance notice. Hey, I'm gonna come up for this one weekend, and then the exchange can take place at the fire station because dad's coming in and gonna spend the night, and then and he's coming in on Friday, pick the child up on Friday and return to you on Sunday, however you're gonna do it. But he's got to give you at least 14 days advance notice of that. It's very doubtful that you're going to get many of those because, again, weekend visits like that, unless there's a special circumstance, birthdays, kindergarten graduation, that sort of thing, then that's not normal. But again, he has that option. But all the other visitation under the standard possession order, summer, spring, Christmas, Thanksgiving, spring break in 2026, not this year. It's like, again, spring break is I'm not sure in Missouri if it's in March or April, but again, we won't worry about that this year. But again, next year, sir, ma'am, it will come into play. But for right now, again, everything per the order. I'm going to tweak the long distance visitation and compare Mr. Lopez's to mine, and but I'm thinking they're pretty much virtually the same. And I'll have once Ms. Lopez also sent a copy of that to Mr. Welch so he can forward a copy to mom so she can see what this thing actually looks like. Okay. So, and of course, I'll waive court costs to both parties in this matter. So, with that long-winded explanation, is there anything the state needs me to specifically rule on at this time, Mr. Welch?
Your Honor, just to make sure, so the health and dental is going to be through TRICARE at a cost for mom for health is 44, dental cost for mom is 42, but there will be 0 cash medical and cash dental.
Okay, was that not already in a temporary order?
Oh, that was, yeah, yes, Your Honor. I'm just confirming what was in there since you already mentioned part of it there. Just
Okay,
make sure it's on the record.
Okay, so the cash medical was not ordered and the cash dental was not ordered, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, then I was going to leave it as is because I understood that to be the agreement. Okay, so
Your Honor, I think it is. I think the parties are fine with.
Okay. Okay.
But
all right. Well, what? Anything else, sir?
And we're keeping as is the retroactive child support, Your Honor.
Oh yeah, that's final. Yeah, that's good.
And also, last thing, Your Honor, non-disclosure as well for both parties.
I'm sorry?
We're keeping as is the non-disclosure for both parties.
Okay, I did not know that was in the last order. Was there, are they in agreement with that? Because I'm not crazy about not, we got people who live great distances away. So if something goes wrong with the pickup and drop off at the airport, they need to know where everybody is. So is there a reason the party should not know the address of the other party?
Um,
I believe at the last hearing, Your Honor, both sides had said that the other person had done or threatened each other
Okay.
at some point over in the
All
past.
right, well, I'll leave it in there, but everybody, you're on app close constantly until that child is exchanged properly, okay? Because again, planes get delayed, they got to fly to different airports, all kind of things go wrong. But just because they can't get there when they say they're going to get there, you still have to. Y'all need to communicate and get things done as far as availability is concerned, especially when it's not their fault. Well, even missing an airplane is technically their fault, but no. We need to go ahead and make sure everybody knows where everybody is as far as the exchange time frames are concerned. But I'll leave the overall information. I'll keep it there. No, non-disclosure still granted.
and Your Honor, there is an exception. So, in the order, Ms. Laramendi did agree to provide her contact phone number.
Oh yeah, phone numbers and email addresses because you got to exchange documents and sometimes you got to send through email and because the phone's not good enough. Okay.
And Your Honor, I just had two quick clarifications. So for the summer visit, you said June 28th. Now I know you said that dad flies in and then so you were saying he flies in like Friday night on the 27th
You can
and then
fly in, on Friday or Saturday,
right,
whatever works for him. And
right.
but he needs to spend some time with the child on Saturday and return the child to mom on Saturday. I'll usually set it up for at least 4
Oh, okay.
hours, but and they can pick the spot where they do that. If they want to pick the firehouse, is that. But the next day, when it's dad's time to fly out with the child, mom needs to bring the child to the airport and meet dad at the gate.
Gotcha. So then visitation starts on the 28th, but the fly out is on the 29th on that
Yes,
Sunday.
sir. Yeah.
Okay, that was my only
And I don't
clar.
want to I don't want to freak the 3-year-old out too much.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is just clarification on the notification. You said 14 days notice. Does that apply to like any visit, including
No, no,
like,
no. Just that 1 week in a month he exercises it. Okay.
gotcha. So no notifications really needed if he, I mean, obviously there's
No, not 14
coordination.
days. I'll tell you what, 14 days on that weekend stuff. That way mom can plan around if he wants to. But dad, any visitation you plan on exercising, you need to let your summer, your Christmas, your holidays, spring break. I make that 30 days in advance. Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
All right. So you need to let mom know at least 30 days out. Hey, I'm coming. All right, so put it on get your calendar, and your lawyer can give you the child visitation calendar that every lawyer office has, where you can see what those dates are. But you need to let mom know 30 days in advance that you're going to be coming to do your visitation. All right, and y'all probably need to do that anyway because of the airline circumstances. So y'all need to try to set that up out as far as possible to save as much money as possible. All right. Anything else, Mr. Lopez?
That's it on my end, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Welch. Anything else, sir?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, Ms. Aramende. Laura Mende, sorry.
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right, everybody. I'll let the state start on that. I'll get Mr. Lopez's copy. I'll tweak what I need, I can, and get that out. And again, Mr. Welch will send you a copy of the standard provisions as far as flight long distance visitation is concerned, ma'am, so you can get some idea of what you're looking at. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Thank everybody very much, and I'll let the state start working on this, and I'll start working on it, and we're off the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And would you like me, so I know you told me to email it to Mr. Welch. Do I email it to Ms. Belinda to give to you, Your Honor? Or
Yeah,
yes?
Ms. Lynn, yeah. Thank you.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. May we be excused, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
All right. Mr. Mendez, you can log off, and I'll give you a call once I have more of an update on the paperwork. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Mr. Lopez, once I get from the judge the visitation that he wants to do,
Oh,
then I will have put it together with the main portion, which I'll draft. And then we'll docu-sign it to your client, Miss Laramendi.
Okay, that works. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of the court hearing. I'm gonna let y'all comment below your own thoughts and dialogue. Don't forget to like the video, share the video. As always, subscribe. See y'all next time.